I got my first feeling of panic and fear. I was going over this little canal bridge and it started shaking a little, and I really felt something come over me that I never felt before. I was 9 years with this, and by the time the Lord healed me, I was about at the limit of I had no life left. Hi, my name is Sandy, and I'm here today to let you know a story about how the Lord healed me from fear. And it was a debilatating, it was an all-encompassing fear that took my life for 9 years. And I think the late 70s, 77, I got my first feeling of panic and fear. I was going over this little canal bridge and it started shaking a little, and I really felt something come over me that I never felt before. And that's when it started back then. And it just continued on in little bits and pieces at a grocery store, maybe standing in a line. I would start feeling that little feeling, and then it took a long time to really get big. But over the years, it escalated. I was 9 years with this. And by the time the Lord healed me, I was about at the limit of I had no life left. As I went on, like grocery shopping or something, as soon as I would get in a line, it would start. And then I would have to either back up, get out of the line, get myself together. And I thought I was going crazy. I really did. And so I would get back in the line and I would try it again. And then if it happened again, I would have to get back out of the line. And then I would look for a shorter line. And that's how my life was started to go. And so I did that. I dealt with it for a very long time as best I could. And then at the end of the grocery shopping thing, I couldn't go at all. My mother and my aunt would go do my grocery shop, and I couldn't go to the store at all by then. And then to back up again, like driving the car, I would drive my car and I could take right-hand turns for some strange reason were okay, like right on left, because there was no pressure on me to have to wait for anything, anybody ahead of me or behind me, anything like that bothered me. And so I would even almost hyperventilate at that. So I would do things, and with right-hand turns, I would go way out of my way just to get to somewhere, and then I'd have to find right-hand turns to get back home. And that's where my life was going all those years. And when I got into a left-hand lane where there's a stoplight, that would be one of the worst panics I think I experienced, was that kind of a thing where you could not move. You couldn't move your car. You couldn't get out of it. And those were the ones I avoided at all costs. In the end, I just could not deal with it. My driving cut down enormously. I had 2 children, 2 daughters. Had to get them to and from school. And if you drive them to school, you get in a line to drop them off. You get in a line to pick them up. Those were pretty hard days for me until my oldest went to high school and she was bused. But the younger one I was still doing, and it was very, very hard for me. And I thought I was really losing my mind. I didn't understand what this was all about. I couldn't even get to a doctor. I didn't even want to tell a doctor. I don't know what he said to me. I was so afraid of everything. So as I went about with my children, they would have school functions and I would have to teachers conferences and things like that. And it would be hard for me. One of them, I told the teacher I'd have to have it over the phone. And so she was okay with that. She thought I wasn't feeling good. And then as time went on, I turned into this person who made excuses for everything. Any kind of a function someone would ask me to go to or drive to or just be there out of my realm of safety net, which was my home, I would tell them, sir, I can't do it. I've got an appointment, or I can't. So I ended up lying to a lot of people that I care about. But I was still afraid that something was terribly wrong with my mind. And so that's how I hid it. I was telling them stories, anything to dodge it. But in the meantime, my children suffered because they didn't get to go and do like they could have. And it went on for a very long time. Like I said, 9 years before. I would have a store right next door to my house. And it was like, oh gosh, I don't know, a few yards away. And I would be lawn there, and then the store right next to my house. And I could not walk there because as I walked, if there was an open space, I needed something right by me. And I would do anything, hold my breath, anything to get over there, but then I couldn't get back. And so I stopped doing that. I would get in my car in the driveway and drive right next door to my house to go to the store right there. It was just a little store, so it was easy for me to get in and out without a panic attack. That's when it was really all-encompassing, taking my life. It was that bad. And got to, in my basement, I had my washer and dryer, and they were not right near the stairwell. They were farther down, halfway through the basement. And so when I first started feeling all that, I would pull boxes that I had down there along the way. I would pull them and made a line right to the washer and dryer. I couldn't walk without touching something. So I touched those boxes and I can get and do my laundry, get back up the stairs with it. But that was the only way, because otherwise I'd be at the bottom of the stairs. If there was nothing there to touch to get to the washer, I couldn't do it. And that was towards the end, it was getting that bad. In the meantime, my children were suffering because, like I said, they couldn't go and do, and that was ripping at me too. And all of it was very hard. My mom would help when she could, and my aunt would help. And then I have my sister-in-law down the street, she would help. My neighbor would help with the doctor's appointments. And I was just beyond, I don't know, I was beside myself. So I went to the store next door one time, and they had a magazine rack there. I grabbed one, I went home, and I was sitting on the couch reading it, and I think it was a Women's Day magazine, and I opened it up, and there is a story about all these people who were suffering just like me. And they had a name for it, and the name was Agoraphobia. And I had never heard of it, but these people had the same story, the same scenarios, all of the same heartaches, all that you just can't do. Your life was gone, your children's life was being affected, and it was really a torturous way to live. But that day that I opened up and I read that story, and the picture was of a plane, which I couldn't even think about a plane. I'll tell you, that would make me panic just sitting there. They were all boarding a plane together. They had come from where I was to get on that plane, and they were going on a little vacation together. As a group, there was a lot of them there, men and women, some young, some old. It was a gift to me, because then I knew that I wasn't crazy. Then I knew I was okay. It was something that was happening to me. And that was a breakthrough and a half. And now comes the part about my aunt comes in. She was in New Hampshire, and she had been going through a disease that was very eating her flesh. It was called a form of lupus. And she found the Lord up there in New Hampshire. She found the Lord, and she called to tell me. And she said she felt so good and she felt wonderful, and that Jesus was healing her. And after hearing all of her stories about how bad she was, I'm back here not knowing Jesus myself. I don't get this. Well, I don't understand. She said, I'm coming down to visit you. I want you to see for yourself. So she came down to my house, and she stayed for a while, and she showed me all these scars from where they cut out this disease. And all the scars were gone. All the scars were gone. She was healed. Her face was color in it, everything. She was wonderful. And that got me going, I believe you. That got me thinking about who is God? Who is Jesus? Who is this? And I've heard, of course, I know about him, but I had to believe her. I see it for myself. She said, you need to, accept him as your Lord and Savior. And I'm going, okay, all right, I'll pray about it. I'll think about it. I'll do anything right now. And my cousin, her son came over, and he prayed with me, and I accepted the Lord. And after that, she came back down. She said, you need a church. You have to find a church. So she was looking around, calling around, talking to the pastors there, and she finally says, I think I have one. And of course, I had to drive there. And she said, you're going to drive me? I said, oh my gosh, I don't know. So I did. I made it. I don't even remember driving, to tell you the truth now. I was so panicky, but I got her there. She said, now you have to come back for me too. So I dropped her off, and then I made it back. And that has to be the first miracle, I'll tell you. And she came out of that church. It was at a school at that time. And she said, this is the church you need to be at. She said, the truth is preached here. It's very strong in Jesus. You have to come back here. So then we went home. We got home, thank you, Lord. And we talked about it. She prayed with me. And it took me just a little bit of time to really get, the nerve. But I had driven there once somehow, not even remembering, because I was so not with it that day. And then I started going. And I kept going. And that was almost 36 years ago, and I'm still here. While I was there, I went that first day and I told the pastor there, his name was Pastor Gene, and I said, I'm new, I have this problem, I may have to run out. He said, you just sit down wherever you'd like to. He said, just sit and listen. If you have to leave, he said, don't worry about that. You go. He said, but come back whenever you can. And he was so great with me. And I never left. I never left that church to this day. I never left. I never had to run out. I can't even remember feeling panic there. I was so in tune with what was going on and what he was saying about the Lord and all of this stuff. And I was so thankful because I get my children there. And then my sister-in-law was coming too at the same time with me. And it was just so perfect. And I was there for a while. I don't know, a couple of years, 3 years. And Pastor Shane came up to me after a service one day. I was a little better, but not, I wasn't all done with it. And he just came up to me and he said, Sandy, Jesus healed you. And so I looked at him because I couldn't feel that. Not that he didn't believe it, I just couldn't feel it, I couldn't tell. I said, okay. And I went home and I'm having a hard time digesting that because I didn't feel anything yet. And I didn't know what that was all about. But I went out next door to that house of mine, that store, and I bought a road map. And I said, okay, Lord, all right, I'm going to find all the people from the church that I couldn't get to their houses to go to functions and things because I couldn't drive there. I want to go to their houses. So I got the map out, I got the addresses, and I made a map of, 4 or 5 people that were farther away from me. And I said, okay, I'm going to get behind that wheel and I'm going. And he went with me. And I went to everyone. And the first one, I was like sitting outside of her house, my friend Debbie, and it was a miracle, and I knew it. I had nothing on me. I had no fear, no anxiety, absolutely nothing. And I was praising him and thanking him. And then I picked the next one. I said, I'm not stopping, Lord. I'm going all these 5 houses. And I went to 5 houses and I drove like nothing. I took left-hand turns. I got stuck in traffic and I'm praising him. I've been praising him for the last 36 years. I've been praising Jesus because he healed me totally and completely. I have been on a plane 3 times to Florida. I've been on bus trips, I don't know how many times, Pennsylvania. I've been to Times Square Church, New York City, on these bus trips. I've been all over, and I'm thanking God. I thank God. And I'm here to tell you, don't give up. Jesus has the answer. He saved me. He delivered me. He healed me. I am beyond happy. I'm so very thankful every minute of every day. No one believes my story because it's pretty far-fetched what I had to go through. But the Lord, he has his own reasons, his own timing, and trust him. He's always right. He's always right on time. And I love the Lord, and I'm so happy to be able to say all this to you. And just last week, I think it was, our choir director sang a song, and it hit me, and I know the Lord was telling me, this is the end of your testimony. I'm no longer a slave of fear. I am a child of God, and you can be too. You have fears like this or any other thing, you go to him. He is real and true and blue, and he'll do it. He'll do it for you.